In 1776, the United States of America was founded on the east coast of North America, right in between Canada and Mexico. The original outline of the U.S. was made of 13 different states, all on land west of the Mississippi River. From 1782 to 1783, multiple treaties were exchanged with the United Kingdom in regards to making the U.S. an independent country and to finalize boundary lines. By 1803, the Louisiana Purchase had been made, which doubled U.S. territory by extending it to the Rocky Mountains. 1819, Florida was purchased from Spain. In 1820, Maine was split from Minnesota and became an independent state. By 1848, the Mexican-American War resulted in the purchase of Arizona, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, and western Colorado. In 1862 and 1863, West Virginia emancipated itself from Virginia, making it a separate state. 1867, Alaska was purchased along with Hawaii in 1898, and by 1925, the boundaries for the U.S. were finalized. These events have shaped the 50-state country we know and love today.
Many years ago, I, James Monroe, created the idea for the Monroe Doctrine, which was created in order to prevent the Europeans from colonizing in the United States. It states that if the Europeans continue to colonize or interfere with states in the North or the South, when this doctrine is in effect, they will be considered acts of aggression and will require U.S. intervention. So far, the Monroe Doctrine has prevented any invasion, but we cannot keep it this way without you.
Protect our country.
Here you go, miss.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I've made a difference!
Donate now to the Pennies for Protection Fund and protect the U.S. from Europe. Many have donated, but you could also make a difference in the defense of our great nation.
Find us at one of our many locations or call us at our toll-free number, 867-5309.
Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to this week's segment of President Talk. Today we are interviewing James Madison. Welcome, James.
Thanks, I'm glad to be here.
So, how was being the fourth president of the United States?
It was a very interesting experience, but before that, I was an American statesman and political theorist. I served as a politician much of my adult life.
I understand that you were at the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and you were the last living signer of the Declaration.
That is correct.
Fascinating. Now, I'm aware that you and a Mr. William Henry Harrison had experienced some problems related to the Treaty of Fort Wayne in 1809 with some Native American tribes. Do you care to elaborate?
I suppose. William, while negotiating with the Miami, Eel River, Potawatomi, and Lenape tribes in Fort Wayne, he, contrary to my wishes, made a treaty with them in order to get their lands.
But didn't some of the tribes oppose due to the fact that the Kickapoo, Miami, and the Wade tribes wanted to keep the land around the Wabash River? I understand that the Treaty of Greenville, created in 1795 under Washington's presidency, guaranteed the Native Americans land surrounding the Wabash River.
Well, the Miami tribe disagreed and even explained the cultural importance of that area, but the other tribes present at Fort Wayne did not.
Really? I would think that the Wade would oppose as well, since they lived there more so than others.
They were not present. That was part of the reason the Miami did not wish for the treaty to go into effect. But Harrison eventually got the treaty signed by all of the tribes.
Then what? I mean, once the treaty was put into effect, what happened?
It was unpleasant. Tecumseh, a leader in a group from the Shawnee, was extremely upset by the treaty and caused multiple skirmishes.
Oh yes, I heard of that. The War of Tecumseh, was that it? Yes. Well, that's all the time we have for now, so thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Join us next week on President Talk when we interview Ronald Reagan.
I'm tired of looking for land in the same old country.
I know, but there's nowhere else to go.
And that's where you're wrong. The borders of the U.S. are changing, and everyone is moving to the West Coast to visit the beaches of California.
What are you talking about? That's not our land. That land belongs to Mexico.
Thanks to President James Polk, his loyal negotiator, John Slidell, was given secret orders to offer the Mexican leaders $25 million for California territory, giving us access to the Pacific Ocean and new trade routes to the east.
My daughter has even told me that she has had a better education since we moved here.
Did you know that Sam Houston convinced the U.S. to annex the Republic of Texas as the 28th state during 1845? That was one of the main factors that spurred on the Mexican-American War.
Historical homes will not be held responsible for any wars or battles caused by westward expansion.
There are many causes for the War of 1812, one of which was the fact that the British wanted to stop American trade with France, regardless of their theoretical right as neutrals to do so. From that action, the American merchant marines had come close to doubling in size between 1802 and 1810, making it by far the largest neutral fleet. Britain was the largest trading partner, receiving 80% of U.S. cotton and 50% of other exports. The British public and press were resentful of the growing mercantile and commercial competition. The United States' view was that the Britain's restrictions violated its right to trade with others. Another one of the causes is impressment of the Navy. During the Napoleonic Wars, the Royal Navy expanded to 175 ships of the line and 600 ships overall, requiring 140,000 sailors to man. While the Royal Navy could manage ships with volunteers in peacetime, it competed in wartime with merchant shipping and privateers for a small pool of experienced sailors and turned to impressment when it could not operate the ships with volunteers alone. Britain did not recognize the right of a British subject to relinquish his status as a subject, immigrate, and transfer his national allegiance as a naturalized citizen to any other country. So when Americans recognized British-born sailors on American ships as fellow Americans, Britain did not. There was an estimated amount of 1,000 naturalized sailors on United States ships in 1805, and about 9,000 of them were born in Britain. Soon enough, the British Royal Navy went after the immigrants from Britain by intercepting and searching U.S. merchant ships for deserters. Soon enough, there was a disagreement. The U.S. believed that the British had a right to become citizens of America, while Britain did not. Britain potentially caused the war by not supporting immigration of their country's citizens. The British may not have supported transference of their people, but they supported raids on Indian tribes. The Northwest Territory, made up of the modern states of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin, had been an area of dispute between the Indian nations and the United States since the passage of the Northwest Ordinance in 1787. Eventually, the Indian nations followed Tenskwatawa, the Shawnee prophet and the brother of Tecumseh. Tenskwatawa had a vision of purifying his society by expelling the children of the evil spirit, or the American settlers. Tenskwatawa and Tecumseh formed a confederation of numerous tribes to block American expansion. The British saw the Indian nations as valuable allies and a buffer to its Canadian colonies and provided arms. Attack on American settlers in the Northwest further aggravated tension between Britain and the United States. The raids from the Confederation hindered American expansion into potentially valuable farmlands in the Northwest Territory. While the British government was largely oblivious to the deteriorating North American situation due to its involvement in the continent-wide European War, the U.S. was in a period of significant political conflict between the Federalist Party, which favored a strong central government and closer ties to Britain, and the Democratic Republican Party, which favored a weak central government, preservation of slavery, expansion into Indian land, and a stronger break with Britain. By 1812, the Federalist Party had weakened considerably, and the Democratic Republicans, with James Madison completing his first term of office and control of Congress, was in a very strong position to pursue its more aggressive agenda against Britain and attempt to further weaken its Federalist rivals. On June 1, 1812, President James Madison sent a message to the Congress recounting American grievances against Great Britain, though not specifically calling for a declaration of war. After Madison's message, the House of Representatives deliberated for 4 days behind closed doors before voting 79 to 49, the first declaration of war, and the Senate agreed by 19 to 13. The conflict began formally on June 18, 1812, when Madison signed the measure into law. This was the first time the United States had declared war on another nation, and the congressional vote would prove to be the closest vote to declare war in American history. None of the 39 Federalists in Congress voted in favor of the war. Critics of war subsequently referred to it as Mr. Madison's War. Meanwhile, in London on May 11th, an assassin killed Prime Minister Spencer Perceval, which resulted in Lord Liverpool coming into power. Liverpool wanted a more practical relationship with the United States. He issued a repeal of the Orders in Council, but the United States was unaware of this. It took about 3 weeks for the news to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Finally, on December 24th, 1814, the War of 1812 was resolved by the Treaty of Ghent, ending the fatal conflict between Britain and the U.S.